I am Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Love Letters. Love Letters are a collection of love stories of people get lost, get crazy in the name of love. And today, I have my special guest. He's my co-host of Music 101, and today we're gonna talk about the most well known, the most important verse in the Bible because it's all about love, love, love. So, Mr. May, can you please introduce yourself?
Introduce the text is First Corinthians 13, and the question is this still relevant in the digital age? So, good question to ask. Can a
Yes.
2,000-year-old text apply to our contemporary dating world? So, today's fast-paced, technology-driven world, where social media and virtual communication are prevalent, the message of love and compassion may be still relevant in 1 Corinthians 13. So despite being written over 2,000 years ago, the principles outlined in this passage, patience, kindness, and selflessness, serve as a timeless reminder of the importance of treating others with respect and empathy. In a digital age where interactions can often be impersonal and fleeting, teachings of 1 Corinthians 13 often they offer a valuable guide for navigating relationships and fostering meaningful connections. By applying these virtues in our online interactions and dating interactions, particularly in a post Christian world, we can promote stronger relationships in an increasingly interconnected world. Moreover, although the Bible is a reliable guide for religiously affiliated individuals, I'd also like to consider the prospect that biblical virtues are actually sounder and psychologically better than secular, socially conformist ideals. So, look forward to being able to talk a little bit about this.
Yes, yes, yes. Interesting topic, people. But before we go on, Mr. May, can you please introduce more about yourself?
Sure, you bet. So that's what I was looking for as the introduction for both the text, which is more important than myself. So I have the Doctor of Digital podcast, also Music 101, where I collaborate with, of course, Mr. Daniel. And also I have the book, a couple books. It's Burning America and also On Track Ian Hunter, available on Amazon. And most importantly, perhaps I'm doing now the Idea to Author Coach, where I have a Facebook page and I help all kinds of people, business leaders, CEOs, entrepreneurs, and to quote Sly and the Family Stone, everyday people break through their obscurity through written presentations, building credibility and authority. That's the Idea to Author Coach on Facebook. And feel free to join. Well, welcome you. If you've got an idea, let's work on a book.
Yes, let's write a book. Stop procrastinating, people. If you have the passion to write, 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 write. Ask Mr. Mick, the Dr. Digital, and of course the podcast itself.
Yep, indeed.
So let's continue our topic. Why is there a fading emphasis on authenticity in contemporary dating?
Yeah, and then we've got a fast-paced and superficial world of contemporary dating. The fleeting and impermanent nature of romantic connections has become the norm. So just like ancient Greek culture, where love was often viewed as an ephemeral emotion driven by desire and pleasure, modern daters often place great emphasis on the immediate thrill and excitement of a physical connection. And with the rise of swiping apps and dating sites, the era of superficial matchmaking has given rise to a culture of instant gratification, where the pursuit of pleasure and satisfaction have become the primary objective. This emphasis on immediate pleasure has led to a decline in the importance of authenticity and genuine connection in dating. As a result, many people find themselves trapped in a cycle of fleeting attachments where relationships are based more on physical attraction and excitement than on shared values, interests, and emotional intimacy. The capacity for deep and meaningful relationships is frequently sacrificed at the altar of instant gratification, leaving individuals unsatisfied and unfulfilled in the long run. So, in today's Western post Christian society, just as in the ancient world, there is a cultural shift towards casual relationships and the concept of friends with benefits. The term eros refers to the idea of engaging in physical sexual activity without love. And this type of relationship is often portrayed in popular culture as a way to fulfill one's physical desires without any commitment or deeper connection. While superficial eros may provide temporary satisfaction, can also lead to feelings of emptiness and isolation in the roller coaster of up and down emotions. Moreover, one of the partners may want a relationship leading to marriage, or even after marriage, one or both partners may repeat their pattern of seeking erotic stimulation outside of the marriage. Casual relationships, including friends with benefits, can be appealing to many individuals due to the freedom and lack of responsibility that comes with them. However, these types of relationships can also be emotionally challenging, if not damaging, and may lead to misunderstandings, constant strife, and hurt feelings. So I would be very cautious and think about things again, probably in a more serious point of view.
Definitely, I totally agree. Mr. Mick, so what is the impact of reason and intellect on modern dating?
Yeah, it's a good question because in a contemporary culture, the prevalence of reason and intellect has also had a profound impact on the way we approach dating. Just as an ancient Greek culture emphasized the power of reason and intellect, many modern daters prioritize finding a compatible friendship or activity partner. In Koine Greek, the word for friendship is philia. It's worth noting that the concept of friendship in ancient Greek culture was different from the modern Western concept of friendship. In ancient Greece, friendship was often seen as a deep and enduring bond between two people, but it was not necessarily a romantic or sexual relationship. Instead, it was often a bond based on shared values, interests, and experiences. Today, however, the availability of online resources and forums has enabled people to evaluate potential partners based on their shared values, interests, and worldviews, making it easier to identify compatible matches and friends. If a person creates a list of 5 or 6 items, and if a potential partner matches their demands, they consider it a match. However, this emphasis on intellect and reason has also led to a decline of the exploration of emotional intimacy and vulnerability in relationships. In addition, it's often led to friends with benefits option. As people become increasingly focused on finding a partner who shares their activities, hobbies, or interests, they regularly overlook the importance of emotional connection, mutual respect, and love. This lack of emotional intimacy can lead to shallow relationships that focus more on rational or friendly compatibility rather than on genuine emotional connection. As a result, people are finding a friend, then they start having sex with that individual simply because they've checked a few common boxes.
Definitely. So, how do friends with benefits arrangement compared to a long-term relationship?
Yeah, that's really the key question, isn't it? So there's a substantial body of research available as to the science of relationships, and these could be interesting to compare. When comparing the impact of long-term relationships and friends with benefits, FWB arrangements on mental health, several key differences emerge. And this can be seen in terms of emotional stability and security. Long-term relationships generally provide greater emotional stability and security, a deeper sense of commitment and support, more consistent emotional intimacy. In contrast, FWB, friends with benefits arrangements, can lead to increased levels of emotional stress and confusion, uncertainty about the status and future of the relationship, and a potential for jealousy and anxiety. In terms of psychological well being, long term relationships are often associated with higher life satisfaction, lower rates of depression, improved overall psychological well being. The FWB situations, however, can result in emotional complications if one partner develops deeper feelings, potential negative impacts on mental health due to lack of clarity in the relationship, or risk of losing a valued friendship if the arrangement doesn't work out. So there are negative impacts to the FWB arrangement, such as emotional confusion. The lack of commitment may cause some individuals to question their self worth. In terms of self perception, some may struggle with feelings of being not good enough for a committed relationship. Not surprisingly, there are gender differences as well. Research suggests that the impact on self esteem can differ between genders. So, men who engage in casual sexual relationships, including the FWB arrangement, often report higher self esteem, although women in similar arrangements report lower self esteem. So, a man is more likely to be uncommitted, while women feel left behind and unworthy. For the man, the situation is something akin to having his cake and eating it too, while the woman doubts her worthiness, clings to a friend pining for commitment, and sacrifices herself to maintain a failed relationship. FWB arrangements often raise expectations of the participants, but research data does not demonstrate positive results. So, interestingly, a 2013 study published in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships found that only 25% of participants who engaged in friend with benefits relationships reported transitioning to a romantic partnership or marriage within the next 2 or 3 years. This study didn't provide information on the success or longevity of these marriages, but it might be implied that they're not going to work. 2017 study published in the Journal of Marriage and Family found that among a sample of young adults or college students, those who engage in FWB relationships were more likely to report higher relationship quality and commitment in their subsequent romantic relationships. However, once again, the study didn't examine the outcomes of the relationship that transitioned to marriage. So there's no evidence to say that this is going to work out over a longer term. It's a lack of evidence that demonstrates that FWB relationships lead to satisfactory long-term relationships. It's just not there. The social implications of younger people not marrying or staying in long-term relationships are outside the purview examining 1 Corinthians 13 that we're saying here, but it does have a negative impact on raising children, a stable family life, and the economy. Of course, there's unfortunate social and emotional consequences. People are not moving into the things that they traditionally do: buy a home, buy a car, so they have stability for the children. In fact, I looked at a comparison of non-monogamous relationships in response. There was a good article written by a friend of mine, Debbie Griffiths, who wrote a Substack article, From Polygamy to Personal Power: The Untold Stories of Sister Wives. She's a fan of the hit TV show, which I haven't seen, just glanced at it, but it's an interesting look at how things have worked out with relationships and the differences between them to compare. So temporary or non-monogamous relationships, the argument is that long-term relationships of marriage are not work. So a lot of people are looking around for alternatives. And it's instructive to compare the different relationship arrangements in order to understand which is ideal as a goal. So based on her article, I started looking at it. The summary: the success rates of non-monogamous relationships are considerably lower than the marriage rate. Research demonstrates that marital success stands at 45%. Polyamorous and polygamous arrangements are roughly comparable to each other at about 25 to 30% success rates, while friends with benefits are only about 10 to 15% successful, while threesomes are even lower at 5 to 10% successful. So if people are thinking about, well, marriage doesn't necessarily work, well, there is no alternative. In other words, if you want to have something and it's love that we're talking about, that percentage of 45% is far above any of the other arrangements. So based on research, non-monogamous, socially popular, uncommitted relationships do not result in better success rates when compared to long-term committed marital percentages. Perhaps it's time to reconsider long-term faithful commitment in relationships. And this is 1 Corinthians 13.
Yes, yes, yes. Very well said. I hope people will long-term relationship. So, can there be a rediscovery of agape in a modern dating?
I'm going to argue yes, based on if we see the failure of other kinds of arrangements, well, what can work? So, this is the power of selfless love. In contrast to the ancient Greek emphasis on eros or passion, modern dating could potentially have a better concept of relationships, and that's this notion of agape, or selfless, unconditional love. So, agape is a type of love that's based not on personal gain or satisfaction, but on the well being and happiness of the other person. In an era where social media has taught us to prioritize our own interests and desires above all else, the concept of agape offers a refreshing alternative. Agape love is not about seeking personal satisfaction or pleasure, but about placing the needs and desires of another person above our own. This type of love is often difficult to achieve in a world that emphasizes narcissism and self interest, but it does have the potential to bring profound fulfillment and happiness to those who practice it. So while the concept of agape offers a powerful alternative to the fleeting and superficial nature of modern dating, it's not without its challenges. In a society that prioritizes personal gain and satisfaction, It can be difficult to find someone who is willing to prioritize the needs and desires of another person above their own. Moreover, agape love requires a level of emotional intimacy and vulnerability that's often difficult to achieve in a world where relationships are increasingly transactional. It requires us to be willing to open ourselves up to the possibility of rejection and hurt and to prioritize the well being of another person above our own desires and needs. But that really is the core of First Corinthians 13.
Definitely. So, what is the concept of agape love in First Corinthians 13?
So, just as in the ancient world, when the text was originally written, agape love is countercultural. The concept of agape, or selfless, unconditional love, was not a central theme in ancient Greek culture. In most ways, the superficiality, the promiscuity, and lewdness of ancient culture have returned to contemporary society. If conceived as a threefold level, agape is a level over eros and two levels over friendship. So, as in any successful relationship, all three levels are necessary to be engaged in a loving, harmonious partnership. In the context of First Corinthians 13, the author Paul is emphasizing the countercultural aim of love as a central virtue for Christians, and he is rejecting superficial forms of relating to others that are more self centered and fleeting. Relationships that Paul recognizes in Greek culture are self centered and fleeting, as in eros and philia, friendship and eroticism. His point is that without love, all other virtues are valueless. So the poetic and hymn-like section that defines love so beautifully is to be found in 1 Corinthians 13, 3 through 7. The passage states, quote, love suffers long and is kind. Love does not envy. Love does not parade itself. It is not puffed up. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. That's very powerful and beautiful and impactful. And it's rarely been equaled in the expression of love. Verse 4 states that love is not provoked and thinks that no kikon, the Greek word is evil. That's a dynamite point. Verse 5 states that love rejoices not in adakia, that is something wrong, but rejoices in aletheia, the truth. Verse 7 remarks, love never fails. In short, all else is temporary and fleeting, but love endures and is eternal. It's a beautiful expression of what love really ought to be.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, love, love, love. Love never fails. And thank you so much for love. So, what then should we conclude about First Corinthians verse 13?
Well, I would say that in conclusion, the contemporary world of dating is characterized by a culture of fleeting connections and superficial attachments. While the pursuit of pleasure and satisfaction is understandable, it's essential that we do not sacrifice authenticity and emotional intimacy in the process. By embracing the concept of agape or selfless, unconditional love, we can rediscover the power of meaningful relationships and cultivate a deeper sense of fulfillment and happiness. As we navigate the complexities of modern dating, it's essential that we prioritize the well being of another person above our own desires and needs and strive to cultivate relationships based on emotional intimacy, mutual understanding, and selfless love. And I think that would be a good summary of First Corinthians 13.
Yes, people. First Corinthians 13, they often referred as love chapter. It's one of the most celebrated passages in the Bible, offering profound exploration of love, nature, and significance. Written, I think, by Apostle Paul, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, thank you, Apostle Paul, for those love, love, love. And I think this chapter also emphasizes the love surpasses all the spiritual gifts, such as prophecy, knowledge, and
Mhm.
faith, as a greatest virtue. And Paul describes love as just Mr. Mick saying love is patient, kind, devoid of envy, pride, and selfishness. So, people, I hope you learned something from this episode. I hope you inspire. And let's begin to empower love, love, love within ourselves, according to First Corinthians verse 13. So, Mr. Mick, thank you for being my guest on this podcast, Love Letters. I hope you will be have my second episode soon. You will have my you will be my guest again next soon because I know you are good in this topic, right?
Well, I appreciate that, Daniel, and anything I do to help and assist. So we worked together well. So let's keep doing and good work together.
Yes, people.
Day is
Thank you
full.
so much. Thank you so much for supporting Love Letters. It's been my second year. And I stopped before. I think I stopped for 5 months because I'm so busy, and I don't have co-host to motivate me to continue what is love is. But now I have Mr. Mick and my other co-host, Miss Karen. I hope we will continue love letters so that we're gonna empower love, love, love within ourselves. So, Mr. Mick, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Daniel.
More to come, people. See you soon. So, Mr. Mick, thank you for I got